Hello, my crafty friends. It's Michelle, the Southern Shell, and I am here with the first of the month collaboration. This is hosted by Brenda with Rustic and Lace DIY. Her guest host is Tiffany with Simply Blessed Crafts. So let's jump right on into project number one. I got these leaves off of Amazon for $5.99, 200 leaves. Great deal, and they're good size too. You can see here compared to my hand, they are definitely a nice size. I went ahead and loosened them up just a little bit, and now I'm going to fold this over and I am going to start making a rose. I thought, how pretty would it be to have a bouquet of roses made out of leaves? These fall colors are just gorgeous, and so I went ahead and did I did one leaf in each, one rose in each color so that I would have these out there, and I think they turned out so pretty. The process is pretty simple here. You're going to fold it in half and then fold it down and glue it and roll it, and then you have that little starter point for your rose. So what I did with the second part of that is I cut the flower into thirds because that would make the perfect size to start my rose petals on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and just take that hot glue, run a bead across the bottom, and now I'm just going to roll that so that the top of that flower is now met up with the top of the rolled rose that I've already created. And I'm going to come in with the second piece that I've cut there. I'm going to line it up and roll it again. So now I've got my rolled rose at the top there starting to build out the smaller petals on the inside. The third piece, which was the center of that leaf, I went ahead and just hot glued it and laid it right on down there and wrapped those around the outside of that rose piece. I'm so sorry I'm off screen there a little bit. I do get back in camera and you can see, but I'm so sorry about that. So I took one more and cut it the same way. I trimmed off a little bit on those outer ones so I could just lay them upright against that rose as I'm building it up. So I went ahead and I used two of the leaves that I cut up, and I would find where the leaves would overlap as a rose petal, and that's where I would lay my next leaf portion down. So find where your petals on your rose are meeting up, lay your leaf down, and then pull it around the edges where that's going to meet up and create your rose petals. So I'm fluffing as I go so I know just what I need. And now I'm going to come in with 4 full roses here. Do a mark on there like a T, down and across the bottom. And then I'm going to line that flower up to the center of that, wrapping that leaf around, creating the petals all around that rose. I'm going to come in and fluff them up. I do one leaf, then I go across to the opposite side, glue down another, and then I pull it up on the sides of the leaves, do one, and then the opposite side, do another. And y'all, I did want to remind you, this is the first of the month collaboration. It happens on the first of each month with host Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIY. This guest host this month is my sweet friend Tiffany with Simply Blessed Crafts. Guys, the links to their channels will be in the description box below, along with a playlist of the other creators that have participated in this collaboration. Okay, so here I am fluffing this rose out. I'm coming back in with the full leaves, and I did one, and then the opposite side I glued down another, and then I did one on each side of that to create the fullness in this flower. I then took another rose and cut it into thirds and placed that in between the leaves to actually create the fullness. Look at how pretty those turned out. This bow I had in my stash from a project I had done. It was the bottom of a tote somewhere. I have some sisal twine, and I have these paper straws from my daughter's wedding, October 2015. Am I a hoarder? Question. Cricket, cricket. Am I a hoarder, ladies? No, I'm a visionist. I knew I could use these. Oh my goodness. I just stuck some hot glue down inside that straw, came up and wrapped that sisal twine all the way around this paper straw to the other end. I left about I left about a half to 3/4 of an inch once I got to the other end. The sisal twine, I got that big old roll at Walmart, and it was just under $5. It was a really good deal. Those of you that don't like all the extra little frays, this might not be the best choice for you. The regular twine would probably do fine. I just really wanted this fall look, and it reminded me of hay. What can I say? I'm going to go ahead, and you've seen I cut that straw down into quarters, hot glued in the middle, and now I'm pushing my leaf rose right into the middle of that. I added some hot glue. Now I'm wrapping that sisal twine all the way up and around to the top of my rose, and look at that. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with some more leaves. I was going to say leaf petals, but yeah, they are leaf petals. I am going to put 4 more around the outside of this rose here. It's going to cover up where I did the sisal all the way up. Put 1 down, come, and I did the opposite. And then I'm going to turn and do the side right there. You can see how I'm just squeezing it in, put the other one there, and then one on the opposite side of that. And it just created this really pretty burgundy fall rose. Oh, I love the way this turned out. It was really super cute and super easy. Now I came right on in and I did 3 more of those straws and just did a little loop on the top. Now I'm taking this sisal twine and I'm wrapping it around the bottom of this old jar. I think this was like a garlic filled olives. Oh, some of my favorite. Those are great when we're having just a wine and cheese kind of night, and it's just wonderful to have those olives. And this jar was the perfect size for what I wanted. Go ahead and trim that down and use a little bit of hot glue to tack it on down there. And this isn't going to go anywhere because it's the hot glue is gluing the twine on the twine. I went ahead and did the same thing across the top. Hot glued that right on down, so that held up nicely. Now I'm going to attach that little bow. I cannot tell you where I got that ribbon. It could have been Dollar Tree. It could have been Hobby Lobby. I really don't remember. But I really liked it, and it just had those colors that's going to highlight those leaves. Look at this. Did these not turn out so stinking cute? All right, y'all, let's jump into project number 2. So I have this wood round. Dollar Tree is more expensive. I got this at Walmart for $1.07. Now, once again, I needed to sand it a little bit. It was a little rough. So I came in and just gave that a quick sand. Okay, y'all, I wanted to share this. I usually get my images off of creativefabrica.com, but this is off my Cricut Design Space, hence the cutting lines there. I went ahead and used the print to cut image and attached the words on there. And I love that image. It turned out so pretty. So I went ahead and painted the front and back of my board here with my Waverly chalk paint in the rose that I had used before. I'm going to come in after I've dried it and some Mod Podge and make sure I have a nice thick coat on there. Not too thick because I don't want it to seep through and make my ink run on the top of my image. So I'm going to go ahead and put a nice coat down where I know that when I set my image down on top of it, everything is actually going to adhere adhere well. So I came in and I'm going to use my heat tool here to dry that Mod Podge. I came back with some sandpaper and cleaned up those edges. I do have one of those little finger sanders on order. It's supposed to be here today. So here we go. I'm using this Rave hairspray to cover the top of my image. I have an inkjet printer. Inkjet printers tend to, their ink tends to run when it gets any type of moisture on it. So if you use a spray adhesive over the top of it, that works. But I wanted to Mod Podge over the top of it later, so I put that hairspray on, dried it, and set it aside. Now I took a bunch of beads and put half of them in one bag and used that sandstone. I mushed them around inside that bag, came back in with my heat tool, hit them with some heat until they were dry. I took the other half of those beads and I used my pink cloud and mixed them up just like I did the other, smushing them around inside that bag. And this was the easiest cleanup that I've had painting beads ever. Make sure you don't put too much paint in there. You see my pink cloud had a little bit more paint and it was a little messier, but it wasn't hard. So now I'm going to take some regular jute twine here and I put some masking tape around the edge and created myself a little bead needle with that. I am stringing these beads onto that twine, alternating each color of the pink cloud and the sandstone. Okay, my heat gun has been heating up and I have my Type Bond Quick and Thick, and I went ahead and laid my beads out around my circle here. I wanted to have an even number across the top to create a hanger so that when I would hang it up, you would be able to hang it between the beads. That's why you'd want an even number if you're doing the beads here. An odd number, it would knock you off to one side or another and it just wouldn't sit right. So I came in and I hot glued the third bead on each side of that. So there were 6 beads that were going to lift up and create that hanger. I then came around and I laid out, and each one of my pink beads, I have some glue on them for the Type Bond Quick and Thick. And then I would come in with the gray ones, the sandstone, and use some hot glue and lay that sandstone right up against that wood round. So as this is going, the hot glue and the sandstone is going to hold it against that wood round while that Type Bond Quick and Thick on that rose cloud dries. This worked out great. It was so easy. So when I came around to the end, I went ahead and removed any extra beads that I had. I was hoping that it would end in, opposite of each other, and it didn't. So I have 2 pink ones at the bottom. No big deal. No harm, no foul. It doesn't matter. So I went ahead and tied a knot in the bottom of that, making sure that that bead was not going to come off of there. And then I used my Type Bond Quick and Thick, put a little dab on the inside there, and laid that jute twine down in between those 2 beads. And that is done. So with the beads I had left, I took some of my extra twine here, tied a knot, and glued it to the bottom of that bead. I took another one, so I had one in sandstone and one in the pink cloud, and did the same thing on the other side. So 2 beads there. I only had 1 bead left at this point, and no big deal. I used the hot glue again, squished that bead right on down into that glue, and made sure it wasn't going to come off of there. I trimmed off the extra twine on both sides, came back and went ahead and did the Mod Podge over the top of this. Very little to begin with, okay? I have dried that hairspray on there, so I put just a little bit on there and came back with my heat tool and dried it. Once that was dry, I came in with a thicker coat of that Mod Podge and laid it down all across the top, spreading this out to the beads as well on the edge of my picture. When I was done with that, I hit it again with the heat tool. Now the string that I had here with the 2 extra beads, I just tied it in a little finger bow, nothing fancy. Straighten it out, make sure my little bow ends are even. And now I can just go ahead and lay that down on the top of my picture, and I'm going to glue that down. I wanted a little thicker twine bow there, so I took a little extra that I had laying to the side and created another little finger bow. Glued that right on down and the other bow right on top. And then I could come in and trim up those edges of the second bow I laid on top, because I didn't want it to be to look like it was just laid on there like that. So I just trimmed it up. I'm like, oh, does this bead fit? No, it just kind of looked funny. So my Tide Bond was still a little damp in the corners there, so I laid that twine down to come around the edge, and then hot glued the tip of it down, and then hot glued across the top there for the other piece of twine and let it hang down. I love how this one turned out. Leaves are falling, autumn's calling. Now, project number 3. Okay, I have a gnome wood piece here. Now, I have had this gnome in my stash for some time, so I don't remember if it came from Dollar Tree or Walmart. Now, they do have some at Walmart right now, and you can order them for a 2-pack, and they come out to be $1.80 a piece, so that's not too shabby. And back into my leaves that I picked up on Amazon, and I'm just taking my hot glue and I'm rolling them, several of them, mostly in the deep color and a few in the lighter color for some highlights. This is going to be our gnome's beard. Now, I did count how many leaves I used, and I used 58 leaves. Like I said, most of them were in that deep rust type color there, and that filled in most of the beard with some of the highlights from the other leaves. And I just love it was some time consuming, but I do love the way it turned out. It turned out really cute. So my husband Joe, it was initially a redhead, and so he was a carrot top, and so I love this. And I had to take those off, those ones you see me putting on there, because I ended up laying them down just at a different angle than I did the other side. And so, just pay attention to where you're laying them down and if you've got the right angle. Because I was sitting here and I was talking with Joe and I was just moving right along, not paying too much attention, and I had to go back in and fix it. So, the angle that you put on one side, you want to put the same type of angle on the other. All right, so I went ahead and came in. This is going to be my last row across the top up there to go underneath his nose. You see, I did paint it, but then I'm like, I didn't like it, and so I'm going to do something different with the nose after I get all these leaves laid back down here. It was time consuming, but I think it was well worth it. I really do. Once I get all of those on there with, the rest of the yellow and the other orange in there, I'm going to come back and we're going to work on a mustache. And guys, if you like this, please give me a thumbs up. It does help my channel, and it also tells YouTube that others may also like this type of content. So your support means the world to me, and thank you for sharing and supporting my channel. Alrighty, let's add our mustache. So here we go. We're just going to create that mustache going right on out at that gnome. This reminds me of my grandfather when I was a child. He had a big old bushy beard and he had a handlebar mustache. I remember that as a kid growing up, that he just had that twisty handlebar mustache that just whipped right up and around. Oh, I love that man. He was a minister and he had several degrees. He was a smart man and just loved the Lord. So Um, no, he wasn't a redhead. He was gray by that time, but it it just reminded me of him as I'm doing the voiceover here. I don't know why. That's funny. Okay, anyway, let's move on to the nose. I went ahead and took one of the yellow and orange leaves and I glued that open right underneath the nose. And I figured that would help just cover up some of the openness and the spaces in between those other leaves. I just thought it looked cleaner, and you don't have to do that. Whatever type you like, I liked it better. So I'm taking some pillow stuffing here. Yes, literally a pillow stuffing. It was cheaper. And I have a couple of those cheap Walmart pillows that I keep around in my fabric supply. And some of this ivory fabric here. Just cut a little piece out of it, a little corner, and I'm making a little stuffed oblong nose. So I'm just going to glue it and pinch it and glue it and pinch it, and I'm going to shape this little guy. Now you could have very easily cut a circle, did a running stitch, stuffed it in there, and then pulled that string to create your nose. I was sitting here, I had my material out, I had my glue gun out, and I had my stuffing out. And so I just used what I had right next to me. Is that lazy? Yes, this was a lazy crafting substitution here, but I think it turned out just fine. I went ahead and used the hot glue and I started by putting that nose in at a tilt so that I could pinch it down into that glue and it would create the curvature of the nose. Once I got that side down, I tucked and pulled and hot glued the top as well. I had this burlap and lace ribbon, very thick. I think it was 4 inches. And I have this denim rust material. I went ahead and hot glued some of that pillow stuffing on the top of that hat to give it a little bit of definition. I'm going to come right in with my hot glue and my little piece of denim there, and I'm going to actually glue this to my denim. And I want it to be, I don't want the lace to show because that's a little feminine and this dude looks like a guy, and I just didn't want him to look real feminine, and so I turned it inside out. I went ahead and used my hot glue just to tack it up and over and create a brim of the hat. This turned out just fine. It was nice and thick and sturdy because that ribbon that I have was once again from my daughter's wedding back in October of 2015. And I'm still using the remnants and the leftovers from her wedding. I was so blessed to be able to keep it. So I'm just going to come around the edge here and use my hot glue to tack the hat down to the sides of the wooden frame on my gnome. I'm going to come in with my scissors and give that a good trim up to the edge, but I don't want it to be, really fraying. I'm just going to cut up and over and then down the side, and then I'm going to come back in with my hot glue and do some dabs and touch-ups where it needs to be tacked down. It didn't take me long at all. I just came right around and was like, okay, you need a little there, and pushed it up. You need a little there and push it down. And so I just tacked it on down there, laid it right on down the top of that hat and trimmed off the excess. No big deal. Just glue it down. I really need to get me some of those little finger protectors. But I've been crafting so long and I was a chef for so long that my fingers are really used to the heat in these moments anymore. So it's really not too much of a big deal. I don't know if I have fingerprints anymore, but that's fine. So just go around your frame and make sure you're not going to have anything poking out. I found some more of my pickberries that I put on those roses that I made earlier and trimmed it off and went ahead and just dabbed some glue on down there and laid this in that hot glue. These green ones I thought were perfect because I did not use any of the green leaves in my beard. I just thought that was weird. So I went ahead and just used the berries on the top with the hat and glued it down. I did not dazzle this up anymore. I thought this was enough, and I love the way he turned out. And there you have it, my friends. Here are the 3 projects I created for the first of the month challenge in September. Fall leaves was the theme, and look at that. That gnome turned out so stinking cute. And of course, the fall roses made out of those leaves. Oh, I took those little pickberries and I stuck them on some of those straws and just popped that right on up there. And then, of course, that sign, oh, leaves are falling, autumn is calling. I think that turned out so cute. I love the fall colors. My living room is in fall colors, the burgundies and the greens, if you can't tell. I just love it. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I know your time is precious. If you like this kind of video, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and shoot me a comment below if you're new or if you've been with me for a while. Thank you so much. Guys, I have started the Buy Me a Coffee in case you want to support my channel. It is not required at all. It's just an appreciation. And I will link that in my description box below. As always, guys, stay safe, God bless, and bye for now.